Okay. Okay, we are live on YouTube. I'll tweet the link out shortly. I'm like juggling two laptops here.
Yeah, I can see the live event in the dashboard. I will just quickly check.
Yeah.
So I'm popping out the chat. Okay. Oh, stream looks good.
Tweet sent. Okay, a few more people on the call.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Hi. Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello. I can hear you, Max.
Oh, Richard here as well.
Yeah.
Hi, Richard.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Max.
Hi there.
Howdy.
Hi.
Hey, Max.
Hi there. I'm a bit still on the road, so I might turn off the video, but I'll join you in conversation.
Awesome. Great to have you.
Maybe best when one is not speaking to mute himself to not add too much noise when Steve is doing the presentation.
Yeah.
Steve, do we start on time or do you need a little bit longer?
I think I'm ready. I guess the question is if we wanna delay a little bit to let more people pour in.
Have you posted it on Twitter and on all
Yes.
the channels on the forum as well?
It's on Twitter. Forum, I guess I can update that. I posted on the Twitter and on Slack. Let me do forum real quick.
Okay, it is retweeted.
All right, a couple more people joined. Let me. So MZ, I'm gonna promote MZ to panelist one more time. I don't know if you purposely changed your status or not, but I won't promote you again if you pop up.
Hi, Roland. Nice to meet you.
Chris Beams.
Roland, if you said anything, we didn't hear you. Maybe your audio has a problem. We don't hear you, Roland.
Oh, hi, this is Thomas, by the way.
All right,
Hi,
Thomas. All right,
Roland
Roland
was the guy with whom I started in the very, very beginning, the very basic ideas how to make a trade protocol way back in 2013, I think.
Nice.
So
Wow.
Very nice to see you here.
Okay. Okay, so just to confirm, we're live on YouTube?
That's what I see.
Okay.
And you guys can hear me?
Indeed.
Cool.
Now you can hear me too.
Yeah, works.
Yeah, now it works. Perfect.
Cool. All right. Let's get started, I guess. We're live everywhere. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is the launch event for Bisq version 1.0 and the Bisq DAO on mainnet. It's super special. This is an event that we're able to attend after 5 years of development, 3 years of operation, and many, many months of testing and iterating on the DAO. It's finally happening, and we are very lucky to be joined by many of the people who've made this possible over the years. I don't know if it's worth naming everybody just yet. Would anybody like to say hi or make an introduction, or maybe we can leave that for a bit later. The agenda for today is, let me share my screen so you can see it. Right here. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so this is the agenda for today. We're going to start with the BSQ Genesis transaction. Once we have the transaction ID for the transaction, we'll be able to build the binaries for the version 1.0, which we will end the call with. We'll end the call with the launch of version 1.0 on GitHub. In the meantime, we'll be about 35 to 40 minutes, and we'll have Q&A. We'll do a demo of the DAO for those who want to see how it actually works, how it actually looks. We'll go through an overview of Bisq history, and go through some of the milestones and struggles and triumphs of the past 5 years. And sprinkled throughout this time, we'll have some challenges and trivia for you guys to test your knowledge on Bisq and the Bisq DAO and some Bisq history. So I think we should jump right into the transaction to make sure we can get that done as quickly as possible. Manfred, would you like to take that up?
Yeah, I will make screen sharing. Do you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, I created a small extra application, or in the Bisq app, added the code for creating the Genesis transaction. I sent already some Bitcoin from our donation address to this application. All this Bitcoin will be used as the input for the Genesis transaction, and then all the outputs will go to all the contributors who have made the project reality. We see here our donation app. Yeah, that's our. I think there's some noise on somebody's side.
Yeah, Huey. Steve, can you mute Huey?
Yeah,
I think yes.
Yeah, so that's a Bisq donation address, and here is this transaction what I sent to my application here, and now I click a shortcut for opening. So now when I click go for it, the Genesis transaction go out. Should I click it? I don't know. I don't hear anything. Okay.
Hopefully it works.
Clicking hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Fred.
Have a look, or is it out? Yeah, that's the transaction. You see lots of outputs, and it should be probably already on in the network. Let's see if we see it. Yeah. 1 second. What's going on here? Yeah, here it is. So that's the Genesis transaction. And yeah, so that's the transaction ID. Hopefully we get into the next block. I will log out now. I will commit everything to master so we can build and prepare all the seed nodes with the updated version and so on. We are still a little bit depending. We don't know if it makes to the next block because the block height is important as well in the code. But we can assume, as we use quite a good fee, so we can assume that we make it to the next block. If not, we have to repeat the code part. So I will come back as soon as I'm done, hopefully 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so. Christoph will start on the release and probably will also join back in 30, 40 minutes. And in the meantime, have fun with the quiz, and hopefully you can win some nice present. See you later.
Awesome. All right, well, that's one milestone complete. With that, we can continue to some Q&A. And let me share my screen again. Okay, just to confirm, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah. So I guess I kind of rushed through the launch plan, but it's as you see it here, we've done the Genesis transaction. Now we're going to do some Q&A and go over a little bit of Bisq history. And I guess this is a moment at which anybody who'd like to say anything, if you've been involved with the project, if you'd like to make a statement, feel free to take the floor. We'll have another opportunity for this toward the end. But I just think it's only right for folks who want to say something to make the moment special. Would you like to say anything or have any questions? Any questions about how the DAO works or Bisq or anything? Any takers?
Well, I would just like to say that how incredibly proud I am for the entire team and everyone who is involved with this awesome project, to making it a reality in a way that is not scammy, that is not like stealing from others, but actually in a well thought out and a well planned manner. Where, as you said earlier, Steve, years of testing until it's finally now on mainnet. And just to see what we've already accomplished, even before we made it to version 1.0, is breathtaking. So I cannot wait to see where the future takes us. And again, I'm absolutely proud for everyone contributing.
Yeah, appreciate that, Max. Definitely exciting. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. So this is a little bit of a recent development. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Q&A. We're going to talk a little bit about Bisq history, and weaved in with these items is going to be a collection of kind of fun quiz-like questions. We're going to ask the question. They're going to be randomly distributed throughout the presentations, and anybody who's watching the call on Zoom or anybody who's watching the call on YouTube is welcome to submit an answer. And we have a couple of people on the call who are going to be acting as judges. We're going to be looking at your answers, and we're going to pick the best ones, the ones we like the most. And the winners are going to get a special limited edition BSQ Genesis transaction t-shirt. There's only going to be 20 of them ever made. And winners will get those. They're going to look something like this, what you see on the screen here. Exact design is not quite finalized, but rest assured it's going to be special and very limited. So keep an eye out for that. We will, I'll let you know as those questions come up. I guess for now, maybe it makes most sense to do a walkthrough, a really quick 3 to 5 minute walkthrough of the DAO itself. A lot of folks on the call you may know about the DAO, you may have heard about it, maybe read about it a little bit. But I think it's maybe fitting that we're launching the DAO, that you guys see what it looks like and how it works on screen. So I have a couple of videos here. Let me pull them up. Okay, so high level, the DAO is meant to decentralize the governance of the Bisq network. As you know, the Bisq software is already peer-to-peer. But for the project to be truly decentralized, it cannot be led by a single team or a single person or a single company. The DAO enables Bisq the control of Bisq to be distributed among a group of people without a single leader or entity in charge of it. And to do this, the Bisq DAO implements 2 main things. It has a token, colored Bitcoin, called the BSQ, which acts kind of like a placeholder for funds to be transferred between traders and contributors so that folks can be paid without any central wallets or bank accounts. And the second big part of the DAO is a governance mechanism with voting, so that strategic decisions, DAO software parameters, compensation requests, anything that requires some kind of a judgment can be made, again, without a central authority or single manager of any kind. So over here, let me share my screen. I've pulled up a video. going to stop sharing that.
Hi, Steve. Just a short info in the meantime.
Yeah.
We are already in the first block, and I just started creating the build. So
excellent, excellent, great news. Okie dokie. Share. Okay, so this is what the DAO actually looks like. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what the DAO actually looks like. It's just another tab in the software. When you're here, so this is an overview. Hold on, I got a lot of windows in the way. Okay. This is the governance dashboard. So if you were looking to make a proposal of some kind, you would go here. And I guess the important thing to note here is that a voting cycle is made up of 4 different phases. When the DAO goes on mainnet, these cycles are going to be about a month long. There's going to be a proposal phase, a voting phase, and then a vote reveal phase. During the proposal phase, you'll be able to make a proposal. Let me, 1 second. Trying to forward the video so that I can show you the rest of it, but Zoom is in the way. Oh my gosh. 1 second. Does anybody happen to know this keyboard shortcuts for VLC forwarding? I can't click the button. Sorry, technical difficulties. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, so when you are going to make a proposal, this is the screen you'll see. You'll be able to pick the kind of proposal you want to make from the dropdown, and then fill in the details. So if you want to make a reimbursement request, you choose that, then you put in your information, who you are, a link to the GitHub issue with more details, and then the requested amount in BSQ. And this will make a, okay, don't mind this. This is an error that was a bug that was fixed. Once you make the proposal here, 2 things happen. 1, a Bitcoin transaction, an on-chain transaction is made to record the integrity of that proposal. So that the proposal data, this link, your name, and any additional data is hashed and stored in the Bitcoin, the out return part of the Bitcoin transaction. And the additional data is then propagated throughout the Bisq peer-to-peer network for voting in the next stage. Okay, so that's what happens there. Here, you can see all the proposals from the network. So these are the proposals that other people made that were propagated to my node. And in the voting phase, you will be able to vote on each proposal one way or another, vote in favor, vote against, or abstain. And again, these votes are Bitcoin transactions recorded on chain for integrity, stored in the Bisq peer-to-peer network for storage. And I think the cool thing about this, I don't want to go too much more into detail, but you guys see how it looks. The important thing here that I find fascinating about this whole setup, this whole mechanism, is that you can connect your Bisq node to a full Bitcoin node, and by yourself, completely sovereign way, figure out the current consensus, the current state of the Bisq DAO. So all the strategic decisions, all the compensation decisions, everything that was decided upon by human judgment, you can determine the state of this social consensus by yourself. To me, that's a really interesting idea that this makes possible. And in this way, the Bisq DAO is able to manage Bisq without any central points of control in a truly decentralized way. So that's the demo. Does anybody any questions on that process? I kind of ran through it pretty quickly. Didn't want to get too tedious with any details, but anybody have any questions on that? Wait a couple of seconds.
Hi.
Hi, Huey.
The vote transaction, it only occurs after the revelation, not when I make it. Am I correct?
The vote transaction happens when you make it.
Okay.
The vote transaction happens when you make it, and then the vote reveal transaction is a separate one that takes place afterward.
Okay.
But I guess what the important part about the vote, the vote transaction is that it's the vote data is encrypted. So that's why it's called blind voting. People cannot see your votes until the vote reveal transaction, when the key to your vote is revealed. Okie dokie. All right, so let's try a challenge question here about the Bisq DAO. Anybody on the call, on the YouTube call or the Zoom call, is free to answer. If you're a contributor, I would ask if you could please maybe refrain from this one, because it's one that you all probably know. But the question is, how many Bitcoin Satoshis are represented by one BSQ token? Does anybody know the answer to that? If you do, put it in the chat, type it into the chat, and we will, I guess, pick the first person to answer correctly. All right, we got one person, but I think he's a contributor, so I don't know if that counts. Felix, Max, you guys got it right. The answer is 100. 100 Satoshis for one BSQ. All right, so I guess we'll note this down. I don't know exactly how we want to handle this particular question, since it was kind of a question that I'm sure a lot of contributors were aware of, but yeah, sorry,
It could be like a test run.
What's that?
It could be like a test run.
Yeah, it's a good test run. But I think some of the other questions are a little bit more creative, so everybody can participate. No, Felix, feel free to participate. We appreciate your. I mean, actually, you haven't been around for a little while, so I don't know if we can really call you a contributor in the moment. You've been very important in the past, of course. But yeah, so Felix and Max. Aruna, would you mind maybe noting these people down, like as we? Cool. All right. Cool. Oh, let me accept the people who've joined as panelists. All right. Okay. What's next? All right. Next, let's go through some Bisq history. Might sound boring, but it's actually quite fascinating. If you've recently been introduced to Bisq, you might see it as more like this, kind of a linear curve with not too much happening, kind of calm and composed. But kind of like the Bitcoin price, if you've been around for a little bit of a longer time, things are a little bit different. Things are a little bit more up and down. There's a little bit more of a fluctuation in the way things actually played out. And that's not any different from any other young venture trying to find its way in the world. Of course, there were a little bit of some quirks here to make things a little bit more, I think, a little bit more challenging. We're in a space here where there's real legal risk. There's software that handles real money. And from the beginning, there was never any external funding for all the initiatives to develop and get the word out. And so there was a ton of uncertainty that I think your typical young venture with a lot of uncertainty didn't have. So yeah, the very beginning, conception. So this goes back to 2013 when Manfred quit his job, decided to do something that he wanted to do something a little bit more interesting. He was interested in Bitcoin already, but he decided at the time to focus on iOS apps. And after about 6 months of that, Apple banned Bitcoin apps at the time. I think they might have reversed that now, but in any case, that made him realize that it was probably useless to focus on iOS, since ultimately it's a walled garden, and it's kind of the opposite idea or point of Bitcoin. And it just so happened that at the time there was lots of interest in decentralized exchanges. So this is early 2014 when the Mt. Gox fiasco was taking place. There was a lot of buzz on places like Bitcoin Talk on how to build a decentralized exchange and how it could work. So Manfred kicked the idea of building one around in his head and with a friend. And he wasn't quite sure at the time how Bitcoin really worked, how transactions are structured, how they work. But he played around with it anyway. I think that's probably the story of pretty much everyone. I mean, there is no school for Bitcoin. You kind of have to learn it yourself. And so he learned enough to make a concept with 2 of 2 multi-sig at the time to accomplish the goals. He floated the concept with some prominent people in Bitcoin at the time. They couldn't find any flaws with the concept, so he decided to make a prototype. Now, he thought that a developer would emerge to help him and help him implement it, but that didn't happen. So he ended up doing it himself and finished the prototype in about 2 months, which was way quicker than he expected. He presented the prototype in Vienna, which is where he met Chris. And later that summer, some more developers became involved with the project. But I believe Chris at that point was still the main contributor. So that's the first phase, conception. Challenge question for a t-shirt. How many contributors have contributed to the main Bisq repository so far? Go. And no cheating. I mean, hopefully someone will answer before people can open up the page, but what do you guys think is the total number of people who've contributed to the Bisq, the core Bisq repository so far? We've got 242. You guys are way off, all of them, everybody. 160, very close. Is that Michael? So far, Mihail is our winner. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name.
Mihail.
Mihail. Okay, Mihail is closest so far. It's a very good guess. He guessed 160. Any other guesses? $164. So good girl got 164. After a few seconds in which she may have checked out the GitHub repo, I don't know. But yeah, let's what's that? Did you say something, Aruna?
Maybe a good girl and Mihail.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll give the credit to Mihail and good girl.
Yeah, because YouTube has delay, so.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, 164. There's 164 contributors to the core Bisq repository. Now, that's just the code. I want to make clear here. I think it's important that we make clear here that there's been a lot of other people involved with the Bisq project making it possible through code, through documentation, through design, through concepts, just thinking through the dynamics, the social dynamics, and other incentive structures to make all this work that that are not included in that number. So it's a lot bigger than that. But as far as the code for the core repository goes, it is indeed 164. Okay, so that's conception, from the idea to the prototype to the team. So everything's great, right? We just kind of grow incrementally from there. Not quite. Things are never quite that simple. The fund needed, or the project needed funds to continue. There were some developers, there was a concept, there was a prototype, but it couldn't continue without funding. And Bisq folks at the time tried a milestone-based crowdfunding at the end of 2014. Turns out the developers were great at developing, but not very great at marketing, so that didn't go very well. It was kind of not a great moment. Most of the developers left. I think Chris left at the time as well. The project wasn't doing very well, but it managed to bumble along. I think at some point, Manfred ended up taking a full-time job at Chris's workplace. Lasted, I believe, 4 days before he, I guess the manager was a bit of a jerk, but also just didn't want to let his baby die. Convinced himself that he'd finish Bisq in 3 months, and almost did, but he ran into some issues with the peer-to-peer network. At the time, Tor was not being used. There was another peer-to-peer network that was being used that had some issues with NAT traversal. And of course, a very important part of any peer-to-peer application. And so he was very close to giving up, but then an acquaintance suggested Tor, and that showed promise. And over the next few months, Tor was integrated into Bisq to solve the NAT traversal problem, and of course, bring all the privacy benefits that it does. And yeah, April of 2016 is when Bisq launched and went into operation for the public. Here, I want to, because the challenge question here is open to everybody. It's a little bit of an interesting one. What did Manfred do before he was a software developer? In his 20s, what did he do? What was his thing? His profession? I can tell you, I was in a cubicle working with spreadsheets and PowerPoint and very boring things, financial projections. That's what I was doing. What was Manfred doing? We got physician.
Yeah, from MC and Roland, musician.
Yeah. All right, let me check the YouTube. What do we have on YouTube? A drummer. All right, so the answer here is Manfred was the musician. Roland got that right. MZ as well. So I have to be honest, I don't actually know the exact instrument, but
I just guessed because there are always instruments in the background with him.
Yeah. Yes, there is always a guitar in the background. Astronaut.
Yeah, I think he can play guitar and cello, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's quite a career change there. So yeah, musician. He was part of a band, and actually, he was telling me that this band, the way this band worked was a part of the inspiration for the dynamic that we have at Bisq. So one of the notable aspects of Bisq, and one of the things that I like about the project a lot, is the really meritocratic, kind of open, radically transparent nature of everything. So the software is open source, but also the way we run events and hold discussions and debate on how to run the software and make strategy for it and how to make certain decisions is as open as we can make it. So until now, we've been doing these, having these discussions on GitHub, on Slack. They're all open for people to join and take part as they want. Calls take place on YouTube as live streams that anybody can see and join in if they like. And apparently his Manfred's band was also kind of structured in this open way. And so I asked him about how this culture came about, and he said, well, it was kind of just a natural thing because that's how his band was, and that's how he's kind of been raised on this kind of transparent, open mindset, which I thought was pretty cool. Okay, so 2016, Bisq is launched. Manfred goes on a big tour throughout many countries of Europe and Israel, and organic growth started pretty much instantly. The first month there were trades, and that kind of just built from there. One thing to note is that Bisq was forced to rebrand shortly after it launched. It used to be called, well, yes, it used to be called BitSquare after the term Satoshi Square, which, you know, back in the day were these events where people would meet in person and trade Bitcoin one-on-one. And so the BitSquare, I guess, idea was just to be a digital version of that. But it was forced to rebrand. Legally, which company forced it? This is a challenge question for a t-shirt. Who can guess the name of the company that forced the BitSquare rebranding? Yeah, everybody's saying Square. It was Square. So Square, they were trying to come out with a Bitcoin app of their own. And it indeed was Square. That's kind of why I was debating whether I should name the old name or not, because it kind of makes it obvious. But so Aruna, who should we pick for?
Maybe Damien, because Max and MC and Mihail already have, and
yeah,
Roland already have a t-shirt.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's see. BitSquare. Yeah. So let's do Damien for this one. Yeah. So that's when BitSquare was rebranded to Bisq. So a little bit later, Chris came back in 2017, took on a big role and let Manfred focus mainly on development. I think, you know, Chris, if you'd like to jump in, I want to really, I think it's really worth focusing on your contributions for a moment, because like I mentioned a little bit before, the appeal to Bisq for me is really twofold. There's the software side of it, and then there's the organizational side of it. I find the organizational aspect of Bisq almost like a wish list of ideas that you'd find in a Harvard Business Review article. Structuring a project to maximize transparency, efficiency, autonomy of the people involved, minimizing politics and all the crap that gets in the way of productivity in typical organizations. The Phase Zero document that Chris wrote, the plan to bootstrap the Bisq DAO. If you guys haven't read it, it's really a work of genius. The ideas are great, but implementing them the way they've been implemented, using the various tools and conventions that have been put in place, largely by Chris, I think makes all of this so amazing. I mean, the result is that we have a mechanism that allows us to make leaps in the ways we are productive, the way we collaborate. You can't build a DAO with the conventional, you can't build a DAO the way we've conceived it without or with a conventional corporate hierarchy. And you also cannot do it with a free-for-all band of people with no structure that's completely anarchic. You need to have something special with conventions that don't impose strict rules, but that have some loose conventions to keep people in a similar, people moving in a similar at a similar rhythm, but doing what they want to do to be as productive as they can in their own way and move the whole project forward. So I think Chris really needs to be congratulated for that. If we were in a room, I would ask for a round of applause, but that probably wouldn't sound so good on headphones. But yes, really, really appreciate that. And I think, you know, it's kind of, at least for me now as a contributor for the past almost 1 year now, it's become second nature. It's become almost transparent. I don't think about making a compensation request. I don't think about voting on other people's requests or discussing things openly. They just become second nature. But I think all of the things that you put in place, their effectiveness and their goodness is in that. They're so good that they become transparent over time. So.
That's a great compliment. I'll just say one thing, if it wasn't already clear through what you were saying, Steve, which is that you have the thing that really makes the difference there, in my opinion, is the willingness to do things manually, right? That you know, actually like filling out GitHub requests and giving up this idea that everything's going to be super technological and perfectly automated and so on. I mean, maybe one day we find better ways, great. But in the meantime, like it all began in Bootstrap, like actually, you know, the DAO being tested and all of that stuff, which was a long period, just all manually, right? Just, you know, here's a GitHub form, here's this, here's that. But thanks very much for the kind words.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, we're launching the DAO software, DAO in the software now, software implementation of these ideas. But, and you know, of course, we're hoping for the best. We think it's going to do great. But in many ways, the DAO is already successful. I mean, the social dynamics, the, you know, making a new way to work, to organize people to work together productively, openly, honestly, this is already in place. And it's been in place for several months, over a year now. And it seems to work fairly well. So it's really cool to see.
Yes, and I would maybe also say that I think a big part why this software works so beautifully in social collaboration is that it is based inherently on mutual beneficial exchange. Right? That is the entire point of having a marketplace, an agora, where peers can get together and trade with each other. And because this inherently requires some level of trust and mutual respect, I think that is also the main part why the right people are so attracted to this venture and then end up contributing with the same ethos because it is so fused into the code itself.
Yeah, absolutely. The incentive structure is, I think, the backbone of it that makes it all work. So that brings us, that's a good segue to the next item, which is the DAO itself. I didn't talk too much about the DAO in the history overview just now, but the DAO was being conceived this whole time. I think Manfred knew from the beginning, back in 2014, when he first started, that this would have to be a very important part of whatever the exchange ultimately looked like. And so this the DAO itself has taken many, many, many forms, many, many conceptions. Back in 2014, the idea was to use the donation address to send trading fees to contributors using a probabilistic fee distribution model. But securities laws were kind of posed issues there. That wasn't really a workable solution. Plus, who would own the donation address? There was a problem there of centralization and ownership. Ethereum was considered at one point, although I'm sure, I don't know if Manfred would like me mentioning that, but it was. And Colu colored coin implementation was another consideration. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of other approaches that I'm missing here, but the point is that over a period of years, much research, much conversation and conception and debate, the implementation of the current form of the DAO began in February of 2017. So by the summer of that year, the DAO was almost ready. Well, it was ready for initial launch if only the colored coin transferring and use for trading was those were the only features that were available at the time. It was decided that voting and governance would come at a later time, but ultimately, I think folks decided that having everything launch at one time was better, and so that was postponed until now, April of 2019, when everything is in place. BSQ for trading, sending and receiving BSQ, and using BSQ to vote and govern Bisq for strategic decisions.
Yay.
Indeed. All right. Yeah. So that's the history of Bisq. Anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to add or say, or just open the floor up to folks?
Yeah, I would have a question. First, you, Centineo.
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, the problem with Bisq was always that it's hard to have just one single counterparty. Now there are even solutions where you kind of have a market maker pool. I don't know if you know about the solutions like Uniswap, for example. There is not a single counterparty anymore. So, for example, Kraken, of course, can do multiple counterparties. With Bisq, at least in the fiat space, it seems to be cumbersome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there is this innovation that you kind of have a pool of market makers that do the thing. Is there any innovation going on in Bisq in this direction?
I'm sorry, could you clarify? You mean in terms of was it market making or for? I didn't quite grasp the question.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as I got it, Bisq still is like you trade with one single counterparty, correct?
Right.
Yeah, and of course, a centralized exchange can have multiple counterparties. So there's just the order book, and it goes more quickly because the money is already in some custody, right?
Okay.
Follow me?
Yes.
And now there are even more innovative ideas in the realm of decentralized exchanges. One is, for example, the Uniswap model, where there is an incentive to create a distributed, decentralized market-making pool that they get fees for providing both sides of the legs, so the buyers and the sellers coins. And there is also now some initiative that has to do with with new regulations in the European Union, which is that every bank has to provide an API, and so theoretically you can know when the money was sent to this account.
Interesting.
So these are the two new innovations that I see, and I was wondering if something is going on in this direction.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know of any initiatives going on at Bisq using those tools, but they do sound really interesting because, I mean, we could certainly use more liquidity on Bisq, and I wasn't aware that banks were providing tools like that. But no, it's certainly something we should consider.
Steve?
Yes, there is a European direction that basically forces every bank to provide an API where you have to basically provide the data of the account if the user, of course, gives away the key. So, Christoph?
Yeah. Roland, yeah. For Fiat, we haven't had anything of that on our roadmap, but we try to, what we try already to push the trading speed for altcoins. So one way we just recently released is instant trading, which just forces people to be online at the same time for trading. But the next step would be then to check for the block explorers, to have kind of to do this manual work of the user, to check if the altcoin, the cryptocurrency transfer has already been done. So that this is kind of automated in the software. Of course, to make this properly, we might start to make a proper integration. For example, for our biggest market, Monero, we were and still are thinking about a tighter integration to the Monero wallet implementation, so we can speed up this kind of trading. But yeah, to have this kind of atomic swap is a little bit difficult on our side, because we are limited in resources on the client side as well. We would have to need for every cryptocurrency, we need the whole Bitcoin Core version of them to be able to validate and to generate this kind of atomic swaps. So that was the problem, I guess. Also, I think Manfred knows the exact details why we haven't implemented more atomic transactions, especially between altcoins yet. But what you mentioned regarding the fiat transfer, that could be a way to speed up this the speed. Maybe if we even integrate it with our mobile app. So we do have some mobile notification app for people who have the Bisq instance running and just can check on the mobile phone if on the progress of the trade. So if we would integrate into the payment methods interface, we could receive this information in the client, push the message to the user, so the trade speeds up. But to fully automate it, we have to think about the UI also, because we do automate stuff, and maybe people only want to kind of accept a fiat payment on their account if they then transfer the payment to another account to prevent any chargeback situation. So it's we can speed up this stuff, but I think we have to really take care that we are not pushing too hard, so people get maybe scammed and more easily. Yeah. That's a good point. Sorry, I'm back on the release.
All right. Just two remarks in this regard. I met some Polish startup guys who are doing exactly this, integrating this European Union API. Maybe you're interested to get in touch with them, so I can introduce you. And the second is really you should look after this Uniswap model. It's really interesting for altcoins. For fiat, I don't think it would work. But so there is not only a seller and a buyer, but there is in between the market maker who has an incentive to provide liquidity. And this is a decentralized exchange. running on Ethereum currently, and it's really interesting how this idea works. It's really going well, I have to say. So there's a lot of money involved already. So it's an interesting model, Uniswap.
All right, cool. Yes, we will look into that.
Hi guys, I'm back. I think everything works so far. I did my first trade, BSQ trade. I think it's already in the Block Explorer as well. Let me quickly look. One second.
Yeah, also from my side, I just also did my first live trade with a new version. So everything looks fine from my side as well. I also uploaded everything on GitHub already. So I think, let me check my to-do list if I missed anything. Yeah, from my side, I would also be ready for releasing on GitHub.
Good, let's go for it.
Okay, then let me share my screen. Just a sec. Just have to get the right window. So let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So let me last checks. Version is right. Tag is right. Versions up there. Yeah. So I would say it's time. It's time for 1.0.0 here. Publishing, and yeah, the release is live.
There it is.
Yeah. So
yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, especially also to the initial developers, Manfred, to you, working for such a long time on a project.
Sorry that it took too long. I know. I was promising another contributor with whom I discussed the very early versions of the Bisq DAO. And when I'm not sure it was the final idea, but he asked me the estimation, how long I think it takes. And I think I said something like 3 months or so. And it took 2 years, but yeah, it always takes a little bit longer. And of course, there was many other things to do in the meantime. It was not only work on the DAO. But yeah, very happy that we finally get it out. And yeah, now it's in the hand of the users. I think Bisq is now really complete. That was really the big missing part, to have the project really decentralized from the way how contributors have the right incentive to contribute on the project and to make decisions and bring the project forward. So I think that's really, beside the Bisq launch itself, the most important event in our short history.
Can I say a few words?
Sure.
Yes, I'm drinking. This is a very big occasion, and I'm very grateful to all contributors, particularly to Manfred and Chris, for creating such an amazing invention, and becoming a Bisq contributor opened up so many possibilities for me and just changed my whole worldview about ways of working together and respecting privacy and many other things. And I want to drink to Bisq. And I look forward to continuing to work together with other contributors. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Unfortunately, I only have water, but cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, I like to thank. you guys too for the whole project and for the mentality behind it. And I really like the whole team spirit, I would say. Like you can contribute the smallest amount who are treated as a true contributor who would be like one really like. So thank you guys for this whole project. I really.
Yes, thank you everybody who participated. I mean, without the contributors, it would be nothing, of course. And also the users are part of contributors in a way as well. So of course, without the users, Bisq would be nothing. And I'm especially happy that past contributors from the early days, like Richard and Roland and Mihail, joined as well the call. Sorry that I couldn't follow up much during the call, so I don't know what you have already talked and so, but great to see you again here. And yeah, and I think beside all the technical challenges, which are of course a super interesting and important part, I think very, very important part is this social and the way how humans work together in a non-hierarchical way, in a very open, permissionless way. It's really a new form of, I don't know if, there is at least no company who is doing exactly the same thing. Of course, there's NGOs and artist collectives who are probably working in a similar way, but then they don't have the Bitcoin behind them to have all these tools that we have now. So I think it's an exciting time, and hopefully everything goes good. It's still super early days with the project, and hopefully there are no critical bugs, and that we go on successfully and give a blueprint for a new way how people can work together on projects which are outside of their classical profit maximization orientated capitalist models, because those models doesn't work for all kind of projects, especially when it comes to privacy. Profit orientation is not really a good fit.
Yeah, Manfred, just because I got two questions from Alfredo and from Homart. If you're running the version 0.9.8 and you were wondering that the BSQ address changed, I think people shouldn't be afraid that why the address changed, because I think the address is changed when it's used in a transaction. Is this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the reason. Also in the BSQ wallet, you always see a new unused address. As soon as it's used, it's not displayed anymore. We will improve the UI there to have more control, but it's basically the best recommendation to always use a new address. And you should see already, also when you have updated to the new release, not with the old version, you don't see anything because the Genesis transaction is not there. So you have to wait until the release or run from master, and then you should see already your funds, what you have received. Also, I checked it with 2 applications of myself, and everything looks good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just checked it on my side. I completely, I just did the trading. I didn't look at the BSQ account balance. Yeah, it worked for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. And the update message should be out already. So you should receive, if you're running version 0.9.8, you should get a message that the update is there, and you should be able to update your client.
Yeah, the best way always is update to do it directly from the application, and all their signature checks are done automatically, and it's extra safe. It's more safe like when you're downloading it.
Just gonna say I'm doing that right now, so all's well so far.
Perfect, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for joining as well. And hope we see you soon again in Bisq, and you're recovering fast and good. But take all your time, what you need. The health issues are much more important, of course, like everything what we do on Bisq.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, are all their questions answered?
Was just one thing, because Chris, you just mentioned Chris Beams. that was one of my main motivation. So I joined the project 1.5 years ago, and Manfred presented, I think, the year before in Vienna already the project. And back then I wanted to try it out, but then I needed to have Bitcoin, and I didn't want to bother Manfred. And in Austria, it wasn't so super easy as it is now to get your first Bitcoin. But in the end, as I said, 1.5 years later, I met Manfred again. I read through the documentation written by you, Chris. And yeah, when I read it through, it sounded so intriguing and so interesting. And I thought, yeah, I think that's a project I want to join, because the people who wrote this document, and obviously they know what they are talking about, and it was really well thought out and very well written and clear. So when back then I didn't have any crypto experience, I got the potential of the project, and yeah, so it was a big part of you, Chris, who finally brought me to the project. So thanks.
Wow. I didn't really know that. Thanks for saying so.
And I want to add too, my experience. I started contributing about a year ago. At the time, I didn't know anything really about Git. I used Windows. I used Android. I didn't use PGP or GPG for encrypting email. I was a complete noob when it came to so many of the concepts that we have here, that we use in the Bisq project. And Chris in particular was really patient in teaching me all this stuff, taking the time to explain how to do, a rebase, or how to sign your commits, things like that, how to do commits the right way. So many of these small details that are so critical for doing work productively in this kind of an environment. I was blown away really at how much time and patience he took at showing me the ropes, and ultimately putting me in this direction of open source, and I don't know, just this whole new direction for everything software related. So I really sincerely appreciate that.
Yeah, and I would like to add something what maybe not so visible for all users and Bisq contributors, is that we wanted to launch already the Bisq DAO 2 years ago, but there was only the very minimum implemented. And then we decided, no, we implement the full version with the voting and the issuance and so on. But then we started already with this social experiment. And there, Chris did the main chunk of the work to set up all the infrastructure, to write all the documents, to basically set up all the stuff what's needed that the DAO can work on a social level. It was still not implemented in code, but it worked already in the way like we did it manually with the GitHub compensation requests, and then with the voting in a spreadsheet, and then with all the communication channels with Slack, and how everything played together. And it was a very important test, basically, to see if people are able to work in this way together, that they are telling the community how much they think that their work has value for the project, and if we can find a consensus together. And surprisingly, it worked out very well. There were very few conflicts and problems. Usually it was misunderstandings when there were problems. And it was not so clear in the beginning, because I was a little bit scared that maybe most people don't want to have it's so public what they earn and how they evaluate their work. And so it's a challenging thing. And we still, especially for new contributors, it's challenging in a way. But at the end, it turned out after 1.5 years, it works. We can deal with this. We can work with this. There are no critical problems there. And that we succeeded with this, I think that basically Chris' work, what he has set up with all this, with the infrastructure, and big thank.
Definitely. All right. Well, I guess I should say, I want to thank all the users, everybody who's stood with us and stuck with us, contributors, everybody on this call, everybody from the past who joined in, made this event special. it wouldn't have been this special without you. Really appreciate you taking the time out of a Monday. For me, it's the middle of the day. For you guys, probably evening or whatever it is. Appreciate you taking the time and for what's hopefully a successful new paradigm for software and exchanges.
And someone asked, Manfred, what did you play in the band? What musical instrument?
Yeah, it's a long time ago in my 20s, we had a band and I was playing guitar and cello and computer stuff as well. Also with computer, we made stuff as well. So it was kind of like experimental rock music. Yeah, but already, yeah, in the 90s, mid to end 90s, more or less. There was another question also regarding the roadmap. I have not followed it exactly. Just to give a little bit a rough overview now, because we have 1.0, I think basically we are done. We
stopped developing.
Exactly, we go in pension, and hopefully somebody else will pick it up. Now, of course, we have tons of open ideas and projects, and I mean the most important thing is new trade protocol. It was discussed already in our proposals repository, which is basically the place is a little bit like this in Bitcoin, also Bitcoin improvement proposals. Here it's Bisq improvement proposals. And it's still not 100% defined how it will be, but that's basically the most important next step. And the goal is basically to get rid of the arbitration system, or at least to make it much less critical or important, so that it's replaced by other tools. And beside this, yeah, the API, that's probably the next software stuff. So after, with the next bigger launch, or maybe in 1 month, we will launch the API, the first version. And yeah, many more things, tons of ideas. It's usually lacking of resources. Although, yeah, one very important thing is also to integrate more Monero. Monero is our main currency on the altcoin side, and we would like to make the user experience much better, that it becomes much more like the user experience like it was on Shapeshift, that you get your trades executed super fast and automated. Or yeah, a few ideas, it's just basically lacking resources. So any developer who want to join us now with the DAO is live, everything goes over the Bisq DAO officially with the software. So by the way, also we are changing now from the calendar months to the blockchain months. So this month has started today, basically as a roughly a month. So end of, yeah, we have to adjust our clocks to the Bisq DAO now. So it's not end of April. It will be mid of May, basically, when this first round, voting round will be over. So in this next 3 weeks, everybody can make their proposals. Then there are 3 days for voting. Then there are 3 days for the vote reveal, and then there is the vote result. And then the first issuance have happened, where the contributors who make proposals in this cycle will earn the first BSQ.
Yeah, that's something I'm really excited about, that I can stop copying over compensation requests, previous votings into the Google spreadsheet. Yeah, that was, yeah, much better now, and less error prone, because every now and then you might change the formula a little bit, so you miss something in the sum. So yeah, it's way safer to have it all in software, in proper software.
Yeah, thanks, Christoph, and also Chris, who did it in a very big, to play virtual machine basically and execute this code manually. Yeah, was not the fun work for sure, but yeah, important to have it. And now it's history.
Yeah, that was the good thing, as Steve already mentioned. We are running the DAO for 1.5 years now already successfully. So it's we are launching something completely new. We just using the software, and now having the possibility to color the BSQ tokens and to use them to fund the whole project, to fund everyone who is contributing to the project, which is great.
Yeah, there is one who wants to say something. Espo, feel free to turn on the microphone. Espo, you are still muted. So if you want to say something, feel free.
Everyone who is contributing to the project.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there is one who wants to say something. Espo, feel free to turn on the microphone.
I'm worried about your network security.
Sorry, could you repeat? There was a little bit bad audio.
I'm worried about your network security.
You mean from the peer-to-peer network, or can you make it more concrete what you mean?
Can you hear me?
Sorry, could you turn off the audio from the video, because we get this now as echo. That's a little bit weird. Sorry, could you repeat? There was a little bit bad audio.
I'm worried about your network security.
You mean from the peer-to-peer network, or
yes.
Can you make it more concrete what you mean?
I'm contributing on the Tor network.
Could you turn off the audio from the video, because we get this now as echo. That's a little bit weird. Sorry, could you repeat? There was a little bit. So you're a Tor contributor. That would be fantastic if you could get in touch with us. We have one dedicated. One second, I mute you because I get all the time. Or Steve, can you mute us at the moment? Because I get all the time the echo back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is his?
On the very right.
Oh, here we go. Oh, wait.
Fantastic if you could still
here.
Yeah. Yeah, we have one dedicated developer who works on the peer-to-peer network. He's also quite familiar with Tor. So if you are interested, it would be fantastic if you can help us and join. I mean, we consider, of course, no software is perfect, but I think Tor is probably one of the most challenged projects where many eyes are on it. And of course, there are probably issues in Tor. So if you know anything or can help us there, would be great. As you probably will know, I mean, our peer-to-peer network, also all the traffic in Bisq is routed over Tor and Tor hidden services. So we are not using exit nodes. Every Bisq node is a hidden service, and they are interconnected. And the peer-to-peer network is on top of this, and it's a flat fill network similar to Bitcoin itself, which of course has its strengths and weaknesses. The strengths is that's very resilient. The weakness is that it's, of course, like all peer-to-peer networks, open for DDoS attacks and has scalability issues. For our use cases, it seems it's a good choice and it works well. But of course, it's an area where it needs ongoing improvement and experienced developers who can help us there. So please just get in touch. The best is Slack or any other channel what we use, and and try to find a way how you could contribute and help us, or give us any hints when you see anything. It seems it's a good choice and it works well, but of course it's an area where it needs ongoing improvement and developers.
Can you need my help?
So please just get in touch. The best is Slack. Definitely. We could need your help. But the best is just to get direct in contact, so we can talk a little bit about what's your expertise, and or if you know already anything where you think that should be improved. At the moment, the audio is very bad, as I get all the time. I hear myself delayed what I'm saying. It's a little bit hard to discuss. Maybe it's a little bit a too broad topic or too special topic for this session, but just ping us and continue the conversation then. Direct in contact, so we can talk a little bit about what's your expertise, and or if you know already anything where you think
how can I reach you?
On our Slack, also on our webpage, you find all the channels, Slack or the forum. If you don't want to use any channels, just try to send us an email or whatever, and we figure out a channel which fits for you. So we have basically all Signal or whatever. But the usual channels are GitHub, Slack, and the forum. And you find everything on the webpage.
There's also a mailing list, so if you prefer that, you can use the mailing list. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. We have also ISC, which get routed then to the Slack channel. As it's not, I think the ISC channel itself is not very active with Bisq developers, but yeah, shouldn't be a problem.
All right. Any other questions or comments, or should we call it a day?
Just one comment. So if you're watching this from Vienna, Austria, there is the Monero-versary upcoming on Thursday. I think it's the 5th Monero birthday, and there's a full day event in Vienna, and I will try to join them. So if you're interested to help us with the tighter Monero integration and have some technical questions regarding the Bisq client, just come by and ask me anything, and I try to help you to onboard you as good as possible, or to get you in touch with Manfred as well.
Yeah, especially because we have a few plans to integrate Monero more deeply in Bisq. So any Monero developer is very highly appreciated if they would like to work on this. And yeah, best is to get in touch. It can be kind of like a bounty that we estimate a feature and say, okay, for us that has the value of whatever, 50,000 BSQ. And then there is bounty out and you implement it, or you do it like other contributors and just start with small things and then get paid every month for it. That's basically the preferred way. But yeah, there are many options.
All right, very cool. All right, well, thanks everybody for joining. And yeah, appreciate you making the time for the event. And I guess we'll end it here.
Yeah, if you like, I could make a very quick screen sharing just to see the first transactions and the first trade.
Yeah. Of course.
1 second. Yeah, you should see my screen already. So here we see our Bisq Explorer, BSQ Explorer, which shows all BSQ transactions. It's explorer.bisq.network, and yeah, you see the Genesis transaction. Here I made my first trade. When you click on it, of course, you get into the transaction details. When you click a second time into it, you get to a, okay, that we have to finalize, but then you get to a normal block explorer, because all Bisq all BSQ transactions are at the end Bitcoin transaction, like you see here in a classical block explorer. And the trade, so there, yeah, you see here, as I did the trade with these two applications, with these two local applications. And there, here somebody made another trade with much more, with a much higher price. We already 13 millions. With my trade, I tried to tune it to something like 4 million, so that it matched with our one BSQ is $1, what we used before we were alive. But of course, now it's in the hand of the market. So it will be exciting also to see what the market thinks. What's the value of one BSQ? It's calculated basically with the last trade. So of course, it will fluctuate a lot when especially in the early days when the price need to be found. And you see here all kind of statistical data, the number of transactions, the number of also the amount of the fees that paid the fee for my trade already in BSQ. So that's 0.03 BSQ, which is 3 Satoshi, as a very small amount. And yeah, so when you want to buy your first BSQ, just make first, of course, you have to set up your account. So go to the altcoin account, set up BSQ. So here, when you search for BSQ, copy your receiving address. When you click on it, it's copied automatically. Copy it in here, set up your account basically, and then you can already make when you want to buy. 1 second, I filter for BSQ. So when you want to buy BSQ, you make it here. And yeah, it's like also trading BSQ is the same like any altcoin. And then you can use it for a trade. Also, when you make an offer, you can choose how you want to pay your trading fee. Just make a dummy offer to show it. I think it needs to be a little bit bigger. Yeah, here you can choose if you pay in BSQ or in Bitcoin. Now, because somebody made another trade with a very high price, the discount doesn't really work so well, as we counted with $1, and we will adjust when the price of BSQ will be really something like $10 in 1 month. We probably we can change the fee by voting, so we can adjust it. In the meantime, it might be the case like now it's only 50% cheaper, like using Bitcoin. But besides saving money by paying a lower trading fee, it's also support for their project, because that using BSQ for trading, you help that the system really works and it's censorship resistant, because with Bitcoin, it's still a kind of like a centralized way how we distribute the Bitcoin fees. At the moment, it goes to the arbitrator. That will also change soon, that it goes to a donation address. And then somebody who is owning this donation address and receive all the Bitcoin fee will buy BSQ on the market with this every month. So when he receives 2 Bitcoin a month on trading fees, he will buy BSQ with this Bitcoin and then burn the BSQ. And by burning the BSQ, he will redistribute this trading fee to all stakeholders. So it's at the end then the same concept, like when the user is already using BSQ for paying the trading fee, then it's basically distributed to all stakeholders in the way that it gets removed from the supply. But it's still a manual process and a kind of like a little bit centralized process, because somebody needs to play this role. It's a bonded role, so he cannot really steal money or so, otherwise he would lose his bond. But the best is when most traders are really switching to use BSQ, then they're supporting the project in the best way. So we hope that we see good adoption of this. And yeah, I guess stop the screen sharing.
Yeah, Manfred, there's one question from XPF. If BSQ will be transferable over the Lightning Network as well?
No, not in foreseeable future. I mean, if it might be, as we have not looked into it, if it can be possible technically. I assume not, because the way how a BSQ transaction is created need to follow very special rules. And for Lightning, it's a completely different transaction type. At the moment, we don't have SegWit integrated because it was not available until recently in Bitcoin J. We're working on this to get SegWit support, but I assume that would be a new version basically, and it could happen someday that we Lightning enabled BSQ version, but then it's probably BSQ 2.0. So I think in the current version, it's infeasible to get Lightning support for this.
There was a
Lightning
question.
is fantastic and cool, but it has some. It's a very different stuff, like the on-chain stuff, what you can do on Bitcoin. It's the same with the trade protocol. We would love, of course, to use Lightning, but you cannot do multisig, at least not now. And we said basically you cannot implement the trade protocol on Lightning.
There was a good question in the group chat in Zoom, so I'm repeating it so everyone is hearing it. Where do BSQ Satoshis go after burning BSQ? SQ already answered.
Yeah, they get uncolored. So like we colored now BSQ with the Genesis transaction. I took Bitcoin and we defined all the outputs are BSQ, and we'll have a different, much more value like the underlying Bitcoin value. By uncoloring, you do the opposite. You take some BSQ, valid BSQ, and give it to mining fee. And by this, they are invalid as BSQ. So the Satoshis go to the miner. And you are paying for every transaction, you need a little bit of Bitcoin as well for paying the mining fee. And by adding some BSQ Satoshis to the mining fee, you need less Bitcoin from your Bitcoin wallet for the mining fee. So you save a little bit on mining fee. And the miner cannot do anything because it's invalid BSQ at this point. And it's our way how we can distribute the fees to all BSQ stakeholders by this trick, in a way that we are reducing their supply. And when you have then every unit of the total amount of.
Yeah, I think just the last couple of words, you were cut off, at least from my side, but that it's distributed through this uncoloring to all Bisq stakeholders, basically.
Yeah, maybe I repeat it quickly. Done coloring is that we use a few of this BSQ Satoshi and use it for mining fee. By that, you are saving the mining fee what you need from your Bitcoin wallet, and the BSQ are invalid as BSQ, so the supply goes down. When at the moment there are 3.6 million BSQ or so. When let's assume that traders use it a lot for transaction fee, and we are burning 100,000 BSQ, then in 1 month we only have 3.5 million BSQ, and every unit 10,000 BSQ out of 3.6 million or out of 3.5 million, it makes a difference. The percentage of your stake of the whole project is a little bit bigger when the supply is lower. And that should be theoretically reflected in the price. Yeah, when there are less units in supply, in circulation, the price is higher of 1 unit. And by that, we are basically distributing the trading fee to all BSQ stakeholders.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and if you want to buy BSQ, I just saw that there's one offer available already to buy BSQ. Or two offers now, yeah. Manfred, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I was muted. Yeah, cool. We see already 2 offers. Of course, main stakeholders in BSQ will play a little bit kind of like the role to distribute that BSQ. So we will do our best to take some of those offers, and it will take a little bit until a real price is be found. So at the beginning, we are probably more generous, and at least everybody will have the personal limit where they say, okay, I don't sell below that price. But I personally will start small amounts, just sell with lower price what I would sell normally, just to get the market rolling and to distribute the BSQ. Because at the moment, of course, only the real contributors who have worked and who have been part of their Genesis transaction have BSQ. Nobody else can sell their BSQ. And traders who have not participated, they need somebody now from us to sell them BSQ. So, but no worry, I think there are for sure a few guys who will play this role now. And after a while, when the BSQ are in the hand of more people, it's more a normal liquid market.
Just to repeat, Damon, Manfred already covered it quickly before, how we moderate or change the fee if the BSQ price goes up. So it's a parameter in the DAO, and it can be voted on. Yeah,
I can show it quickly if you like.
Yeah, I think it would be great.
I make a screen sharing again. So here I have one application. I go, do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you go to governance, and we are already in the proposal phase. So people can start already to make whatever. I mean, there are all kinds of different proposals. Everybody who has helped in testing, they're already familiar with it. Otherwise, you need to read up a little bit. Some of the features are not trivial and very advanced. If it's not clear to you, just ignore it. They will be probably not really used in the beginning. The most important is compensation requests for contributors. And changing a parameter. We have tons of parameters in the Bisq DAO, which are up for changing, even the duration of those phases, like the proposal phase. Initially, I think it's now something like 3 weeks, and we could change it to shorter or longer. And here are the BSQ maker fee, the BSQ taker fee, the minimum fee, the maximum, the minimum for maker and taker. So at the moment, it's 0.05 BSQ per. I think that's per Bitcoin. I don't remember exactly. I would need to look up. And yeah, you fill in your name. You should make a proposal for this. So everything need to have information why you want to change it. So you start making a proposal on the GitHub in our proposal repository, where you make your arguments why you think you want to change it. And of course, when the price of BSQ goes up to $10, we have clear reason to change the fee and lower it. So let's assume we want to change it to 0.1. I just write it in here, say Manfred, my name or my nickname, and then the link has to be real, of course. And if you want to be anonymous, you have to create the anonymous GitHub account. And then you make your proposal. So when I would add a link, I just add in a dummy link quickly. Then I could make the proposal already. I don't click the button. Then a transaction gets published with with the hash of the proposal data. The proposal gets published to the peer-to-peer network, and the DAO is at play. And then later in the blind vote phase, people can, every stakeholder, everybody who has BSQ, can vote on every proposal which was published. And in the then you have to be online again in the vote reveal phase, and in the result phase at the end of the month, the result get determined from the voting what people have voted on. The more BSQ you have, the higher is your weight for voting. And when it finds majority, then in the next phase, also after this month, the new fee is valid, and everybody who will trade then will use the new fee. One small comment, which people who have not tested it so far are maybe not so aware, is when you do anything with BSQ, you always need some Bitcoin in your Bitcoin wallet as well, because the mining fee, every transaction requires a normal mining fee, and the mining fee is taken from the Bitcoin wallet. As well, when you make a compensation request, the amount, when I would make here a compensation request for, let's say, 1,000 BSQ, that's 100,000 Satoshi. So you need from your Bitcoin wallet 100,000 Satoshi, which is used as the input for your issuance transaction when you get voted okay. If you get rejected, you can send it back to your Bitcoin wallet.
Manfred, I have a question about the voting. Have you considered quadratic voting?
I'm not super familiar. I read once. I think it's used in some Ethereum projects, but I don't know that. I don't remember the details.
The detail is that the amount of coins is weighted quadratically. So basically, if you put in more, then you get even more votes.
Yeah.
So the idea behind this, it's an economical theory of some Canadian economists, and they say minorities that have a strong opinion can then gain more power, more weight in the saying.
Yeah.
Otherwise, in a flat mode, you basically minorities will never have the opportunity to say their thing. Okay.
You mean now that lower amounts get, or a square, or a quadratic or square? So because with square you would give more power to the majority, that somebody who has already a lot of money get even more influence, like it happens in our real life politics. Do you want to boost minority or boost majority, like we have in our parliaments? Basically all this cheating that it's not really counted normally. When you have a big party, then you get more seats. That's basically in this direction, that you are cementing, and it's easier to govern because you have more majority. But I mean, the short answer is we have this meritocratic approach that those who have earned BSQ by compensation requests, so at the moment, the Genesis is not counted for this. But after the Genesis, with every month, every contributor who earned BSQ, this money gets summed up, and it doesn't matter if you have sold it. So when you have earned 1,000 BSQ, next month you have already 1,000 BSQ just from that. And when you have 2,000 BSQ in your wallet, you have 3,000 BSQ as the voting weight. And with that, we are giving more power to the contributors who have worked for the project, because we assume that those know more about the project and are more aligned with the values of the project. we want to avoid that a rich whale who has just a lot of money, like a Roger Ver in Bitcoin, and have very bad ideas or very bad intentions, that he create damage for the project by buying up 500,000 BSQ and make stupid decisions. And that's, I think, the main protection against this is our meritocratic approach. So when we see there is a very stupid proposal, then the core contributors who have a lot of BSQ and have earned a lot, they will put in their power basically to avoid that such a proposal get accepted. And I think that's good enough. And one design goal was always to make things as simple as possible, because that was complex and complicated enough. And when there was a choice, yeah, maybe we could do this, and maybe that has a little bit benefits there, but it makes things more complicated, we avoided it. And when it was not 100% clear benefit, like the meritocratic approach with the voting was something where, for me, it was very important to have this, even if it made things a little bit more complicated. But other stuff we tried to avoid when there was not a very strong reason.
It totally resonates with me that you want to have it more simple, and that's the best way to go. Yeah, I can understand why this is the best choice.
Yeah, and as I mean, most people who have not went through the code and so are probably not aware how difficult it was at the end to get really to this. I mean, to build consensus systems, especially when you cannot rely on blockchain only data like other projects are doing. I think on Ethereum it would be much easier because you only take the blockchain data and you are only there. But we are combining the Bitcoin blockchain data with the peer-to-peer network data, and the peer-to-peer network data, you cannot really rely on them because it's valid that some data didn't arrive somewhere, and to find solutions that you ensure consensus and that this works and that safe, that's quite a challenge, and was more difficult and challenging and complex, as I assumed in the beginning when I estimated 3 months. But it was super exciting, and I think it's a new. I'm not following too much other DAOs. I mean, there are plenty of projects out, but it takes a lot of time to really learn and to understand the project. So I'd never had time to really get deep into other projects. I'm at least not aware of another project who is doing the same approach like we do, that we have basically a second layer network, our Bisq peer-to-peer network, which we utilize for the content data and use the blockchain only as kind of like timestamping to ensure for getting security from the consensus side, but use our Bisq peer-to-peer network as the carrier for the main data. And I think a main reason is because most projects don't have their own peer-to-peer network. It's already quite a challenge to have a functional peer-to-peer network. There are not too many projects out, and that was in the history of Bisq one of the biggest challenges when we moved from the old DHT, which never worked in the real internet, to our own peer-to-peer network. That was quite a heavy change.
Thank you. Yes, I think your model is one of the most exciting DAOs that I know. So, yeah, kudos.
Yeah, hopefully we can rebrand the very burned term of DAO again a little bit. Most people have forgotten it, or new people don't really know about it. It was not such a problem anymore like 2 years ago when everybody had it in the mind of the DAO. But I think the basic idea that people find a way how they can work together in a completely permissionless, censorship-resistant way based on blockchain technology, on Bitcoin. When it works out, hopefully with our DAO, I think it could be an interesting blueprint for other people, and then hopefully it finds other replications where other people try to do the same, and it's not trivial, unfortunately. And by design, it's not built general purpose, so you cannot just take the Bisq DAO and run it for your own project. That was not a design goal. Otherwise, I would have needed another 2 years. But yeah, I think it's a start, and the ball is rolling. But I want to mention also, of course, we are not the only one. There are many other projects. I'm ignorant with the other projects just because of lack of time, and for sure there are some other very valid approaches as well. Yeah.
Before we come to an end, maybe just the 2 last questions. one from Damian in the Zoom chat, which is a great question. How is voting power of contributors maintained after selling? So if the contributors selling their BSQ tokens to someone else, will they lose all their voting power? Or
no? Also, when you have issued BSQ, or when you got issued as a contributor BSQ, they will have a decline by age. Over 2 years, they have 0 value. So when you earn this month's 1,000 BSQ, in 2 years it doesn't have value anymore linearly. In 1 year, it has 500 BSQ voting power, and after 1 month, it has 998 BSQ voting power, independent what you have in your wallet. What you have in your wallet, you can decide how much you want to take for the voting. It's blocked for the voting, for the blind vote phase, also for 3 days. This BSQ you cannot use for trading or whatever. So you should not spend all your BSQ, what you have in your wallet, but you can, and whatever you add up, it's the sum of both of this merit. So that's the sum what you have earned with this aging function applied, plus the stake what you want to add to your vote. It has to be minimum. We have this restriction because it's a normal Bitcoin transaction, and there is a dust limit for any output. Also 546 Satoshi is the minimum output amount, and that's 5.46 BSQ. So the minimum is roughly 6 BSQ, what you need to add to your vote. But when you have earned already 20,000 BSQ, you still have quite a big voting weight.
Yeah, and XPF asks another question that's more kind of exchange related. If we do have any plans to make a BSQ tradable on other exchanges?
It's not our plans. We cannot avoid it, basically. I mean, a very big warning, and that's super, super important. Don't create your own BSQ transaction. Don't send your BSQ to a hardware wallet like Trezor or whatever. It technically can work, but when you make a tiny mistake, especially with the fee, you are destroying your BSQ. And we have stated it in several places. We cannot basically help you then. When you have burned the BSQ, they're invalid. And it can be when you have 10,000 BSQ and you send it to Trezor and then want to send it back later and it was an invalid transaction according to the BSQ rules, it's just then 100,000 Satoshi, Bitcoin Satoshi, and you have lost basically this 10,000 BSQ. And we will add a little bit support, especially for hardware wallets, to have cold storage, to have instructions how to do it correctly. We didn't have time yet. It's not trivial. Even I didn't do it for myself yet because I didn't have time. And I really, don't do it. Of course, you can do it when you study the code and you understand all the rules and you do it right, it works. But it's super complex. The tech spec is not complete with covering all the details and probably will never. So you really have to know all the code. And even then, it can be that we add changes which would not affect any BSQ transaction which are created by the current application. But when you create your own transactions which are following the current rules, then and we're changing some rules and make things more strict in future, because for some transactions which are not created anyway, or transaction structures which are not created by the application, then it could invalidate your transaction. We will not take care of this because it would create a lot of damage or problems for us when we need to take care with all future improvements and updates and maybe security fixes that we know, okay, there was one guy who made a custom transaction. Now we cannot change this. So that's clearly stated, and it's basically only the Bisq application is the wallet. Don't use anything else. And of course, any exchange could build the systems, either use the Bisq software or whatever, and could start to trade it. I don't assume that will happen soon because it's not trivial, but yeah, it's up to them. We will not actively support this. And actually, I'm not interested because it will create a lot of this problems, what I just mentioned, that with every new future update, we have to take much more care then, and we are much more restricted. So I'm happy when I don't have to care about our implementation a lot more. And basically, we don't want to motivate users to go to another exchange to trade BSQ. Do it in Bisq.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. I think that were the only questions I saw. Sorry, Steve, I completely captured the call.
Not at all. It's good. I mean, anything else? Anything else we want to cover, or should we wrap up here?
Yeah, it's already nearly 2 hours. Let's wrap up.
Yeah, let's wrap up. Well, again, thanks everybody. Thanks for putting up with my nagging over the past months. For testing on the weekends and Fridays and everything that everybody put up with. Appreciate it. Thanks to the users. Thanks to everybody who joined the call. I look forward to seeing how this DAO plays out.
Yeah, thanks everybody as well. Yeah, especially those who helped testing, all the contributors, all the users, especially those Monero users who has boosted Monero yesterday to 120 Bitcoin. Was, I think, our best trading day ever just before the DAO. Was a great coincidence. And if anybody wants a T-shirt and was not lucky to win one today, yeah, you can get this T-shirt on a web shop of a Bisq contributor. What's the domain? I think Bisq.shop or something like that.
Yeah. I think Bisq.shop.
Yeah. So get your T-shirt and other
and stickers. The stickers are great.
Stickers, mugs, or caps. He has plenty of cool stuff there. And yeah. Hope everybody joining our efforts to get decentralized governance and decentralized working together more reality like it is already.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.